Wusstest du, dass Zehntausende deutsche Unternehmen bereits Shopify nutzen? Von innovativen Start-ups bis hin zu Familienunternehmen mit langer Tradition? Die Commerce-Plattform Shopify revolutioniert Millionen von Unternehmen weltweit. Mit Shopify kannst du Produkte über beliebige Kanäle verkaufen. Ob persönliches POS-System oder umfassende E-Commerce-Plattform. Auch Social Media und Marktplätze wie Facebook, Instagram und eBay werden unterstützt. Dank der ständig wachsenden Auswahl innovativer Funktionen und des zuverlässigen technischen Supports ist es ganz einfach, dein Business mit Shopify aufzubauen. Ob Produktpräsentation oder Bestell- und Zahlungsabwicklung. Shopify bietet alles, was du für die Verwaltung deines Business brauchst. So kannst du dich ganz auf dein Business konzentrieren. Shopify kostenlos ausprobieren und dein Business voranbringen. Shopify.de/try besuchen. Also Shopify.de/try. Made for Germany. Powered by Shopify. Wusstest du, dass Zehntausende deutsche Unternehmen bereits Shopify nutzen? Von innovativen Start-ups bis hin zu Familienunternehmen mit langer Tradition? Die Commerce-Plattform Shopify revolutioniert Millionen von Unternehmen weltweit. Mit Shopify kannst du Produkte über beliebige Kanäle verkaufen. Ob persönliches POS-System oder umfassende E-Commerce-Plattform. Auch Social Media und Marktplätze wie Facebook, Instagram und eBay werden unterstützt. Dank der ständig wachsenden Auswahl innovativer Funktionen und des zuverlässigen technischen Supports ist es ganz einfach, dein Business mit Shopify aufzubauen. Ob Produktpräsentation oder Bestell- und Zahlungsabwicklung. Shopify bietet alles, was du für die Verwaltung deines Business brauchst. So kannst du dich ganz auf dein Business konzentrieren. Shopify kostenlos ausprobieren und dein Business voranbringen. Shopify.de/try besuchen. Also Shopify.de/try. Made for Germany. Powered by Shopify.
Every Nigerian must be instrumental to the growth and development of our nation through the use of innovative energy and idea to lead and initiate policies that will sustain the economy and enhance good governance. With all the financial turmoil facing the world, it has become pertinent for exchange of new ideas that will enhance good governance. Please subscribe to our channels, listen to our messages and engage with us. With your support, we can transform the lives of all Nigerians. Welcome to the Season 2 of the NESG Radio.
Welcome to NESG Radio. My name is Oluwaseyi Vincent. I am your host for today. So today we'll be delving into impact investing in Nigeria, discussing some of the findings from an NESG report on the subject. So I'm so pleased to have my colleagues with me today. We have Mr. Shakiruddin Taiwo, Mr. Sodiq Olofen, and Mr. Wasiu Adikunle. Hi, guys.
Hi, Shi. Thank you for having us on this podcast.
Okay, welcome. So let's just delve into the issue. So we're going to be looking into impact investing in Nigeria, how we can unlock investment for impact within the country. So I'll start with you, Shakiruddin. So the Nigerian National Advisory Board for Impact Investing, NABI, is collaborating with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group on the project Investing for Impact in Nigeria, deep dive into agriculture, education, and health sectors. What motivated this project and the choice of sectors?
Thank you very much once again for the opportunity to actually discuss the details from the report as commissioned by the GSG, which translates to Global Impact Investing Group, and also the IDRC, the International Development Research Corporation. So the research was actually conducted in partnership with the NABI, which actually means the Nigerian National Advisory Board for Impact Investing, and the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. We all understand that in recent time, they are large focused on the performance of Nigerian macroeconomic business and investment environment. Aside from the size of the economy of Nigeria, which is the biggest size in Africa. We also host a lot of potential as a country. However, over the years, these investment opportunities that Nigerians have attracted with a lot of investment in many of our tech startups evolving into unicorns. In recent time, we have had 3. This has translated into little social outcomes. So this prompted the question, what are the benefits of these investments? Are these investments being directed into the most appropriate in terms of generating social outcomes, in terms of job creation, alleviating poverty, improving the economic growth? So these are a lot of questions that this research seeks to answer, and considering the macroeconomic performance of the country. So I think this is the basic thinking of both the funder, the National Advisory Board, the NABI, and the NESG. And coincidentally, the focus of this research being the agriculture, education, and health, also aligned with the 5 critical sectors that the NESG actually identified in their 2020 macroeconomic report for being sectors that can enhance achievement of inclusive economic growth in Nigeria. So it is more like this research is building on the previous work that NESG has done, is looking at answering that question around unlocking inclusive development in Nigeria, and also answering the question of the global environment on why investment in recent time has not generated the necessary or expected social outcomes.
So the market has seen rising interest from non-GFI investors. So that's one of the features that we see in recent times. So what are some of the other key features of Nigeria's growing impact investment market that you can highlight?
Okay, so just like you have mentioned that the market is probably the largest in the West African region. However, so when we compare with other economies such as Egypt and South Africa, the growth being experienced in the Nigerian impact investing market is actually lower than these country peers as far as the continent is concerned. However, between 2015 and 2022, so we are already in 2023, so there are some of the key features of the market. As far as it is evolving, it is nascent, it's just growing. There are a lot of traction. First is that it is dominated by the foreign DFIs. A lot of impact investment in recent time are made, the commitments, the flow of funds are made by non-local DFIs, such as the MasterCard, the Rockefeller Foundations, the Bill and Melinda Gates. So this is one of the future of the market. So it's more like the local acceptance at the moment is still minimal compared to the foreign development partners that have actually had grip of understanding the market and how they could make a lot of impact. So the second is that the market is at the moment dominated by grants as an impact investing instrument. So we could see there are a lot of activities from foundations such as Tony Elumelu Foundation, providing business grants, incubation, more like for enterprise to grow. And we also, on the other side, we'll see limited participation from government DFIs. We have institutions such as the Bank of Industry, Development Bank of Nigeria, whose activities can be categorized within this space, but their participation is a little bit more like limited when you compare with their peers globally on this market. And also is that there's a lot of more unique characteristics of the Nigerian impact investing space in terms of when you look at the stakeholder composition. Nigeria has uniquely stakeholder called the intermediaries that sort of ensure fusions of activities of the credit suppliers and the firms or the enterprise that would need this type of credit. So you have players in this space, such as the CC Hub. You have players such as the Faith Foundation. So these are players within this space. It's more like not what you likely see in the advanced or more the emerging market around this space. Having some intermediaries that would ensure a development of enterprise that meets the demand of the fund providers. We also understand that at this moment we are having the development of socially different enterprise coming into this space as well, that are providing more mixture of profit-oriented and social impact. So we will see the effects, commodity exchange on these stakeholder list around this social enterprise. We could see the Babagana, we could see tomato juice around this space. So you could see a lot, and also largely, the impact investing market is also then having a transformation or a metamorphosis of ensuring that the corporate social responsibilities of profit-making companies in Nigeria are also being directed into ensuring there is impact. So you have a lot of this uniqueness around this space. So just like I've mentioned, the dominance of foreign non-DFIs in this space, the limited participation of the public DFIs in Nigeria. We have talked about the unique role of some intermediaries on the market, and we have talked about the current transition of major corporate social responsibility into this space, and also largely and the dominance of grants, as we have mentioned. And in recent time, we are seeing a mixture of grants and equity investment with maybe such programs such as the Orange Corner with the Faith Foundation. So you are seeing this evolution of futures and emerging attributes. So, and just like I've mentioned previously, that the market is still nascent, it's still growing. We hope that in recent time we will see more catalytic funding coming in terms of government providing that uptake financing for enterprise that will generate a lot of social outcomes for the people. We would also look at the development of more socially different enterprise, just like the one we have mentioned. We need a lot of them in this market at the moment. But those are just the basic characteristics of the market, as we are able to find from the research.
Great, fantastic, very, very robust answer. So one other thing that I thought maybe you might be able to touch on. So I think evidence also suggests that many impact investors are not located within Nigeria. Can you just speak to that? So why do you think we have this sort of trend, and is that something that's being reversed?
Okay, maybe that might take us to some of the policy recommendations, because what we did in this research is also to look at what has been working, what has made the market's growth to be limited with what we have detected. So we understand that at the moment in Nigeria, the policy environment is more like suited for the conventional investment, not totally fitted for impact investing products. So these are the questions around regulations, these are the questions around laws that provide either incentives or market guidelines for impact operations. So we would see this, and for major emerging countries have attracted major impact investing in recent time is that they are like intentional about creating an environment for this. We could cite Mexico, we could cite Brazil, that has a national plan for impact investing, and some specific countries that had a fusion of inclusive business model policy that creates businesses in terms of socially different businesses, and the impact investing that creates.
Wusstest du, dass Zehntausende deutsche Unternehmen bereits Shopify nutzen? Von innovativen Startups bis hin zu Familienunternehmen mit langer Tradition? Die Commerce-Plattform Shopify revolutioniert Millionen von Unternehmen weltweit. Mit Shopify kannst du Produkte über beliebige Kanäle verkaufen, ob persönliches POS-System oder umfassende E-Commerce-Plattform. Auch Social Media und Marktplätze wie Facebook, Instagram und eBay werden unterstützt. Dank der ständig wachsenden Auswahl innovativer Funktionen und des zuverlässigen technischen Supports ist es ganz einfach, dein Business mit Shopify aufzubauen. Ob Produktpräsentation oder Bestell- und Zahlungsabwicklung. Shopify bietet alles, was du für die Verwaltung deines Business brauchst. So kannst du dich ganz auf dein Business konzentrieren. Shopify kostenlos ausprobieren und dein Business voranbringen. Shopify.de/try besuchen. Also shopify.de/try. Made for Germany. Powered by Shopify.
Fit for purpose investment or capital for these businesses. So this is at the moment not available in Nigeria. And you know that policy is a great driver of any market. And any country that has a fit for purpose policy for a specific market, you would notice that the market will grow. And you could see this maybe briefly with the development of the tech space in Nigeria. The tech space then needed policy. Then you have the Startup Act to support the space. So all these are at the moment they are not available in Nigeria. So the investors, as much as they would not want to generate much profits, they are not profit oriented, but they are sustainability oriented. So I could say the policy gap in Nigeria at the moment is not conducive for this. So we could say this is one of the major driver of the absence of major players in the impact space in Nigeria.
Great, thank you so much. So this brings me on to my next question. So it's very much linked to discussions we've already been having. So Wasu, evidence shows that DFIs are the key players in the impact investment space. So that's something that we've already just mentioned. So these institutions deployed 71% of the investment capital inflow to Nigeria between 2019 and 2021. What would you say has driven this trend, and how can Nigeria attract more local private capital into the three priority sectors?
Okay, thank you very much once again for having me. What I can say regarding the first question is the fact that the growth in impact investment funds and the larger share of DFI is largely demand driven. How do I mean? To say that the business space in Nigeria is not like Chakulina said. When it comes to, in terms of the impact investing products or instruments, we have a mix of equity investment, loans, debt financing, grants, and all that. Then when you look at, we have DFIs, development financial institutions, and non-DFIs. So when you look at DFIs, they are more positioned, or they are more skewed. Their interventions and capital deployment is more skewed to loans. And looking at the Nigerian environment in which the MSME space is being dominated by sole proprietors who are averse to equity funding just because of the fears of losing ownership in their businesses. So they mostly favor loans, and I think DFIs are more skewed to that aspect. So the Nigerian businesses are more, they find it more able to at least to access funding from the DFI than the non-DFI that is more skewed to equity financing and also grants.
Great, fantastic. So it aligns, DFI kind of finance that they provide is more aligned with what the Nigerian enterprises desire. So over to Sadiq.
Okay, with regards to the second question, I think there are two questions in that. With regards to the second question, how can we attract private capital to the three priority sectors that Nadia has identified? Nadia has in the report, so agri, health, and education. So, all these sectors, they have their own long-term and structural challenges that need to be looked at. So, for instance, looking at agriculture, so most interventions in agriculture has largely been government-dominated. And when you look at it, you find out that most interventions of the government only cover the production aspect, while the other phases on the of the value chain are not taken well care of adequately. So I think one thing that could be done is to ensure, like for instance, agri, you have the production aspect, you have the post-harvest segment, and you have the transportation, you have the processing aspect and transport and all other segments. So you understand. So, but if you look at issues, there are constraints, okay, that needs to be addressed across this agri-value chains that would incentivize private sector investment. Say, for instance, there needs to be good roads. Okay, there's need to open up rural communities into urban centers to be able to access the market in real time. There is need for certain infrastructure development in some of these rural locations that are agri in nature. So aside from that, there is also need for proper storage facilities as to reduce the post-harvest losses that we lose huge amounts of money every year to post-harvest losses just because there is bad road networks, there is inadequate storage facilities provided, and all that. So all these constraints need to be across the value chains in agri, like have to be taken care of, have to be addressed, have to be resolved for private investors to be incentivized to bring in their money. Secondly, is about the health. If you look at the health sector by design, the structure, you find out that the control of the healthcare system in Nigeria is more government dominated, and this government, half of the health facilities we have, government accounts for 2/3, while the private sector investors account for just a third of the total. So how do we incentivize private sector investment in the health sector? So one way to go is there is this transition or this emerging issues of digital health, okay, of digital health. So if we bring in digital health, or some of this, there are innovations in the health sector, in the health digital space, okay, which monitors maybe the stock of healthcare facilities, which monitors the data, which helps to collect data in that space. But because of the fact that there is no technology adoption, most of this, so we need to address that issue. How do we encourage people to use? There is mHealth, there is telemendoc, there are innovations coming over. But because of the fact that there's low technology adoption amongst Nigerians, so that will not encourage further private sector investment in that space. So there's need to address that issue. So when it comes to the education sector, if you look at it in terms of enrollment, data shows that enrollment falls drastically as we move from one level of education to the other. For instance, the World Bank data shows that primary school enrollment was at over 80% in 2018, and secondary enrollment was around 46%, while tertiary enrollment was around 10%. So how do we encourage private sector investment in a situation whereby enrollment is very low as we move up? And if you ask me, one of the reasons for this is the poverty level and even the high cost of education as you move up the ladder in your of education levels. So there, how do we incentivize the enrollment? That is what we need to address. To bring in private sector investment to the sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So sticking with unlocking impact investing in Nigeria, so we'll move over to Mr. Sodiq. So Mr. Sodiq, from a funder's point of view, what are the disincentives and factors limiting the ability of financing institutions to provide financing for businesses in Nigeria, and how can the inflow of impact investment be encouraged on the back of these challenges?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I would like to take the conversation from where my colleague was stopped from. So one of the major things that is driving low incentive for funders, irrespective of the category as we might have put it in this study, is that the economic environment itself is challenging. And most of the time, when the pricing of funding instrument is taken into consideration, the risk characteristics of the country as a whole comes into play. such that before a fund like we have reviewed earlier, a debt instrument is the major form of funding that many of these funders are providing businesses. So in the process of costing or pricing of these debt instruments, they take into consideration the risk level in the country before they then start to consider the risks, the sector-specific risks and the business-specific risks before they now come to the MSME that we are talking about. By the time they take all these things into consideration, you see many of these funders trying to consider it as high as 30%, 35%. So, and when we are talking about when a business is paying interest at 30-35%, you then wonder, is it possible for this business at the end of the day to make a profit margin of 35% or 40%? So if a business is not making that margin, how does the business want to pay back? So some of these things, like Wasi had mentioned, is the basics for which many funders are considering the economy and businesses in the economy. However, we can then start to look at some of the other pertinent things that could be the issue. So we have different kind of funders when it comes to MSME and this impact space. My colleagues have earlier mentioned them. We have the DFIs, we have the non-DFIs. DFIs are people institutions that are licensed to do financial, to provide financial services, whether public or private, while the non-DFIs are the ones that are not necessarily financial. And based on this, their category, exposure as to how how they are being disincentivized to support businesses. So I'll take it from the public DFI. So one of the major problems that I see is the lack of data on the financing gap in the economy. You will see from the report that, let me take the agricultural sector, for example. We have about $282 billion financing gap. And looking at previous studies on what these have been, you will discover that the government and maybe previously said they've not been able to lay emphasis on the extent of the financing that is needed. So the government over the years have been putting in place programs and all of that to solve a problem that they don't even know the extent of the problem. So that's why at the end of the day, if you put together all government funding over the past 10 years, it will struggle to be up to $2 billion. And we have a $180 billion funding gap. You can see the extent of what the government needs to do and what they have done. Also, from the part of the government, we have a poor design and coverage of some of these programs. So at the end of the day, they are not meeting the people that they set up the program to achieve. And like I said, inadequate. The government and the funders generally, they have a problem of they don't have adequate knowledge of what many of these sectors are, the financing need of these sectors. Oftentimes, you just see a bank officer or a front desk officer trying to collect information, general information about the prospective borrower. But many of these businesses, particularly the sectors in consideration, they have specialized need of funding. We have in the agricultural value chain, we have different types of businesses. They have specialized need. We have in the education sector, we have different kind of businesses that have specialized need. But what we have is a generalized funding that is made available by the government, oftentimes different from what most of these businesses need. So there's this inadequate knowledge as far as what the businesses need in terms of financing, the structure of the finance and the nature of the finance. Also, we have the issue of persistent inflationary pressure in the economy. The CBN has oftentimes tried to reduce some of their support to MSMEs due to the inflationary pressure we have in the economy and the need for the CBN to manage money supply and all of that. So that's on the government side of the DFI. While in the private part, on the private DFIs, we have a lot of them are being disincentivized by the fact that most of the MSMEs within this our focus sector, especially the agricultural sector, they lack adequate documentation. They don't keep proper records. because of that, most funders don't find them attractive to finance their businesses. Lack of information on their credit worthiness. Even we are still struggling to, most of our credit bureaus are still struggling to get information about the credit worthiness of people. So because of this lack of information, they don't know how to assess the potential business based on their ability to pay and all of that. Also, most of the banks that we have, even the specialized bank, the microfinance bank, development banks, at the end of the day, it does appear that they are wholly profit oriented, and they just want to get the outcome. Oh, we're able to offer so loan, and we're able to make so return at the end of the day. I feel that profit orientation is a big problem for most MSMEs, and particularly the sectors of interest, education. They need very patient credit. But what we have here most of the time is just 2-3 years that they give you. That's when they are being considerate. The high risk characteristics of MSMEs too is a big problem for them. That is a big problem that is disincentivizing funders. The crowding out effect of government borrowing. Over the past decade, we see a very high level of borrowing on the part of the government. Because of that, most banks, most financial institutions, instead of providing credit to businesses in the economy, they prefer to buy bonds, they prefer to buy treasury bills, buy OMO, and then just sit down, let their money sit down somewhere and be creating wealth for them. Also, we have the limitation around the kind of product that many of these banks are having, which is transcending from the knowledge issue. So the product, the process, and the services that are tailored to MSMEs most of the time is not reflective of what MSMEs need. At the end of the day, leading to a mismatch between what MSMEs need in terms of financial products and what the banks are offering them. So that's on the part of private DFI. We also have non-DFIs that are providing philanthropic resources and all of that around. But the problem they have is they struggle with transparency and accountability and corruption tendency among potential borrowers. A lot of these small businesses, they borrow money. When they borrow money, they take it to go and do one Owambe or the other. When they borrow, that's when they remember, they want to do remembrance of their grandfather and all of that. So some of these issues is a discouragement for most of these funders. There's also lack of proper documentation is a problem. Even if Tony Elumelu is ready to give out the $1 million to you, if you don't have proper documentation, there's no how they can do it. Low capacity on the part of these people that are providing the fund. They don't understand what most of these businesses need. So at the end of the day, their evaluation of the business need become porous, and they find it difficult to provide credit. Also, we have the politicization of many programs. At the end of so oftentimes when some of these non-DFI financing comes, especially as we have it with SMEDAN, as we have it with LSETF and some of these Tony Elumelu, Bill Emeligage Foundation and the likes. People see it as a national cake. So let's have our own share of the national cake, and eventually they find it difficult to pay back, or they refuse to pay back. So in that situation, the funders become wary, become very conscious before giving a loan to MSMEs. So these are among many of the issues that has been a disincentivization for many funders, irrespective of where they are coming from. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. Thank you. So you highlighted so many issues. So there's clearly a wide range of challenges which are holding back the flow of impact investment into the country. And we also segmented it by DFIs and DFIs. That was quite interesting as well. Okay, so we'll go back to Mr. Wasu. So we've talked more generally about the impact investing ecosystem, so across sectors. So now let's just look at the priority sectors that the report focuses on. So these critical sectors identified, which are agriculture, health, and education, have been the most hit when it comes to low access to finance in Nigeria, despite their importance to survival and human capital development. So can you speak to the barriers and impediments to accessing finance and attracting investment into these particular sectors with a focus on MSMEs and women?
Okay, thank you very much once again. I think Sadiq touched on most of the time. To say when the Nigerian MSMEs are really positioned not just for impact investing funds, but also for private sector investment generally, okay, or for investment inflows generally, okay, then you would say a considerable increase in investment inflows to this sector. But to be specific, one key issue is about some of these businesses is one, there's high level of informality. And how do I mean? The number of businesses are not registered. And, to access most of these funds and all that, there's need for documentation. At least your KPI should be convincing enough so that the funders can take a look at your KPIs to determine your credit worthiness. But in first place, when you are not registered, your KPIs are not available, making it difficult to know your credit worthiness, then you get no funding. That's number one. That needs to be added. Two is the huge the high rate of illiteracy and skills gap. Huge skills gap. When it comes to skills gap, okay, you will find out that most people they resort to a particular sector just because there are no other opportunities for them. And let me just take the instance of the education sector. You see a number of graduates, in fact, engineers that were trained to be engineers, that were trained to be lawyers and all that. They ended up taking up many jobs in the education sector just because they don't have such opportunities. And even aside that, when it comes to the transport sector, you see a lot of graduates, just like a round peg in square hole, or a square hole in round peg, whichever any of these two. So in that particular industry, for you to convince your funders that they aside from the fact that they're going to get some returns, financial returns, that it's going to also translate to some level of social impact, okay, that they would like to see. So then at least the skill set has to be fantastic. The skill set have to be huge enough, and I think that's where the non-DFIs, particularly those that give grants. For instance, the Elumelu Entrepreneurship Foundation that has this TEF program almost year in, year out. So such a program targets like in terms of the package of the program, you get trained, and afterwards, successful graduates, just a handful of them get financing, get funding to establish themselves. Do you understand? But not all DFI, not all impact investing funds, particularly on the DFI side, that's mostly dominant, okay, is ready to train you in the skills in the areas of interest. So that's one issue we also need to look at critically. The third is the poor managerial skills, okay, also talking to skill set. The next one is just like Sadiqa has used to, is the high rate of business-related risks. In Nigeria, if you ask me, just a handful of MSM is about 5% have an active insurance policy. So the question will not be, when such business faces some kind of risks, okay, that would require some compensation from insurance and all that. And because of the fact that they are not insured, then that means the whole investment is lost. So investors, funders are also looking out for, they will only choose business that are highly and adequately insured or have active insurance policies. Another issue is the fact that you want to get funds, but it's like you are going to the farm without a cutlass and hoe. Okay, yes, you get to the farm, and without cutlass and hoe, you do not. So most businesses don't have business plans. So if you don't have business plans to consolidate on what you have, or even to start a business as being a seed business and all that, then how do you get proper funding? Most of these businesses do not have clear cuts and even a business plan to show for what they are doing as a business. So funders are looking out for, and funders will always be looking for businessmen, business people that has a viable business, that have viable business plans and all that that could be positioned for proper funding. So with no business plan, you get no funding. So these are some of these issues that needs to be addressed. These are some of the key barriers that needs to be resolved, and then that need to be resolved and ameliorated for Nigerian businesses to be well positioned for private investors, for private capital, inclusive of impact investing funding. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. Yes. So we've touched on a lot of the challenges that exist within the Nigerian market. And it's been both on the demand side and also on the supply side. So it's been quite encompassing. So Sadiq, we're going to come back to you. So let's try to determine some of the ways we can address these barriers. So the question is, so how can we identify critical sectors, position to leverage, and also to make them attractive to the impact investment space so that we can plug the funding gaps that have been already explained by the two of you, especially for small businesses and women. So what are the ways we can address barriers and impediments? And just give a few.
Okay, thank you once again. So it's quite I don't know how to qualify that, but it's just unfortunate that the sector we are considering, they happen to be the most hit by many of these conversations. They are the bottom of it. All of the issues hit them the most. Most of the other sectors, businesses are ready to, funders are ready to just dump their resources on them, given the fact that most of the people playing in those spaces, they are a bit educated. And if you, according to what Wasil said, that a lot of people, they engage in some of these businesses, especially in the agricultural sector, because they have no alternative. So you just dump yourself there because you don't have another means of livelihood. So with that, you can do something. So as it is, many of these sectors that we're considering, they have specialized financial needs, like I said earlier. But one thing is very, very common among them. They all need patient capital, and it's important that the funders, irrespective of where they're coming from, even the people coming with heavy impact capital, they need to take their time to understand what they need, especially given the nature of our economy. Many of these issues might not be issues for advanced countries, but in developing countries like ours, these funders, DFIs, non-DFIs, we know the onus is on the non-DFIs the most, but DFIs too, in the interest of corporate responsibility, corporate social responsibility, need to take their time to understand the financial need and the characteristics of the funding these businesses need. But on the business side, there is need for heavy capacity development. There are lots of things to say. Wasia has mentioned many of them. These businesses need to know how to develop business plan. It is when the funder is able to read your business plan or your, is it MOT or MOR that they call it, that it will be able to understand what you need money for and how you want to use the money and understand how they are going to design a financial product for you. But when you don't even have a business plan, it shows that you yourself, you don't understand the business. Then you want the financial institution to come and understand the business. It's not possible. It's going to be a waste of time. So once they need to develop capacity in that area, you develop capacity in financial management, bookkeeping, branding and packaging of their product, insurance, like Wasil mentioned, and some industry-specific developmental training. They need to develop capacity around some of these things. Also, beyond capacity, there is need for awareness management for MSMEs and youth and women businesses concerning the availability of funding. There are so many of them here and there. If you read some of these Faith Foundation report on access to finance and state of entrepreneurship in Nigeria, there are many businesses don't even know what is out. They don't even know the resources available to them. There are many of these things here and there. The government, many of these banks, Sterling Bank is doing a lot of things for both agriculture, education, and health. Access Bank is doing a lot. Many of these banks are doing so many things to assist businesses, but there is an information gap between the businesses and the funders. So there is need for us to do some kind of awareness management such that opportunities that businesses can explore to access funds is made available to them in the very last mile, wherever they are. And this is a call on the civil society organizations to come together it might not be easy to come together as civil society organization, but at least endeavor to make sure that this information is getting to as much businesses as possible for them to be able to take advantage of many of these resources that are being made available. And concerning the women, there is need for deliberate effort to categorize them as a major point of support, such that any funding opportunity or any program that is being developed, women consideration should be put into it. It's not much can be done when many of these programs are being developed by saying, oh, this program should only focus on women. But there is need for deliberate effort to give serious preference to women businesses, because they play a lot of role in the stability of our society. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So it's been a very interesting interview. We've learned a lot about the ecosystem for impact investing in Nigeria. So thank you to the team, and thank you to the listeners for your time. Be sure to look out for the full report, Investing for Impact in Nigeria, Deep Dive into Agriculture, Education, and Health Sectors, which has gender and sustainability as cross-cutting themes. This report is out later this year. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us on this your podcast.
Thank you for being a part of today's interesting program. You can learn more about the NESG's If Not Now When campaign at www.ifnotnowwhen.ng. You can also listen to other interesting conversations by visiting www.nesggroup.org/podcasts.